Hi.
Hello,
Hello.
everyone. Hi,
Hello.
ladies.
Oh,
How are we?
good.
Doing good.
Nice to be
Good.
here. Finally get to
Thank
meet each other. Well, not you and I, but Deanna and I.
Yes.
I am so excited to have you guys finally meet and to be here with me. And Song, thank you so much for doing this with us.
You're welcome.
So, number one, I would like to do a little temperature check.
Ooh,
All right, here we go.
little bugs.
How are we feeling today?
Excited, nervous. What is going on here? What am I doing on an interview?
It's not an interview, it's just a conversation.
What am I doing in this podcast? What's going on?
Meeting some new people,
Yeah,
or at least a,
expanding,
yeah.
going
Hmm.
beyond our boundaries.
Yes. Yes.
You like
Very
Just
that?
gonna
good.
spend some time. How you feeling, Deanna?
I'm doing good. Doing good. Looking forward to whatever we end up talking about tonight and whoever we happen to meet along the way. So, yeah.
So, what they don't know is some of our pre-conversation. Yeah, some of our pre-conversation was that there's a possibility for some channelings to happen
But
today.
but don't get your hopes up. I don't want to not
We
I don't
don't
Right.
want to
know.
disappoint anybody. It might not happen. Yeah.
Yeah,
If it
you know,
does, it
whatever happens,
does.
happens, you
Yeah,
know?
Oh, we'll keep everybody on the edge of their seats to find out.
There you go. Yeah.
that's right.
And
Anticipation.
Yes.
anticipation. I love that movie. Um, So, with that being said, yeah, because, and let's kind of have that conversation. Yes, there are a lot of people who can on command channel. However, sometimes it just, as we were talking about earlier, it just kind of spontaneously comes through
Hmm.
and then you're channeling. Or sometimes, you go to ask the questions or something and but is it what I'm saying is that it is not always spontaneous.
Right.
It happens how it happens. And that is part of the beauty of this.
Hmm.
All right. So, where do we want to begin? I have some questions. Who wants to
Well,
begin?
I just want to start off by saying, hi, I'm Song. So many people don't think that that's what my name is, but it is. Just wanted to put that out there.
Great. Continue with
I
that
love
because
that.
that's exactly what I was going to say is would you be willing to introduce yourself and what you do?
Well, as you know, I'm Song. I received my name many, many years ago, and it was quite a moment in time for me. I don't I guess we're going to get into that. I really wasn't thinking that I was going to go that route, but I guess we will. I read a
Good.
book called by Hameo Storm called Seven Arrows. In the book, there's a passage in there that says that some of the messages within the book are so profound that people change their name. They find their true name. And I
What's the
was
name of this book one more time?
really inspired by it. It's by Hameo Storm. I do not know the common spelling of that name.
Hmm. What's the name of it again? Seven
Se-
something.
Seven Arrows. You're not even laughing at my joke. You're so serious.
I was writing. I
I
was
was
writing.
smiling.
That's because I was focused on writing, making sure I was trying to spell that first name and I just scratched it out and put Storm.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yes, continue with your jokes, friend.
Uh, feel all awkward now.
So, how did your name come to you? From a passage in the book or?
Yes. In the book, it said that there are many people who read these stories and they feel so moved by the stories because the stories are literal translations from the older generation, the elders. They would only speak the stories, and somebody had the foresight to write them down. And they are written interpretations of the stories that were told. Sometimes there are things in brackets because they have to put an interpretation in there for us to read. Once I finished the book, I was in a room, and here's the really beautiful part of me receiving this name. I was in a room that had a belly stove. It had the pipe going up the center of this gazebo style center of their house. So there was other part
Hmm.
over there, another part on this side. But in the center of the house, they had this domed roof with a stovepipe coming down to the stove. The fire was going. I was sitting on wicker furniture. And behind me, there was a kitchen, but the kitchen counter was here, and then it moved up to a very brightly lit sunshine ceiling. So it's totally lit. All of the lights were on. I'm sitting on this wicker chair, and above this totally lit kitchen was a small opening that you could shove a Christmas tree into and pull a Christmas tree out. It was just like a storage room, and it had a curtain covering it. And this is important because while I was sitting in this picturesque room, tongue and groove pine all the way around, look out the patio window on the left and the right, just beautiful, pristine. I opened the book again because I'd finished reading it. I opened the book again. I'm like, where's this passage? This has to be the book that I read, that you would be so moved by this book that you're going to find your name. So I'm like, okay, I can do this. I can find it. I didn't find it. I was so frustrated. I closed the book. I'm like, what am I thinking? Is this the wrong book? So I started questioning myself. Like, it must be the wrong book. I'm like, I have, it wouldn't be in any other book. So I open the book again and I carefully go through each paragraph, 20, 30 pages later. And I'm like, this has to be the wrong book. So I close the book again. And now I'm frustrated because I can't find this. While I'm frustrated, I hear something from that opening up above. I'm the only one in this house, but I hear it and it's up above and it's kind of behind me. And I hear, song. I'm like, ooh,
Wow.
that's really freaky. And then I felt it touch the back of my neck. And so I was like, oh, I
Goosebumps.
I guess this is the book. I just couldn't find the passage. And I guess I know what my name is now. And so from that day forward, it was really challenging to switch your name and then have everybody that you grew up with not call you it.
Mhm.
It is hard. It
So
is.
I had to disassociate with them for a time. And then after about 10 years, I met them again, talked with them again, and I would reintroduce myself to them and just say, "Hi, I'm Song." And they're like, "I know what that is. I know that." But do you? And then
Mm.
they see the difference between before and now, which is really nice because it allowed them to go ahead and be comfortable with calling me Song.
It's almost like they met you for a second time, but this time they met the real you.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what I was thinking is you just disassociated so you could reintroduce as the person who you are now
Hmm.
choosing
Yeah.
Well, you know, they
to.
put so much into names. Names are so
Names are
powerful.
powerful.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And if you find your true name, then you're really standing in your own space, I think, a little bit. I think that that really helps you become, if that makes sense. So that's really great. I mean, amazing. And I mean, you found your name. That's
You know,
huge.
and
That's
it,
why I got rid of my last name is because of that. You and I had that conversation, a little blurb of it, Deanna, that
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
because I don't want to have those ties.
Mhm.
You know, I
hmm
feel, especially for women, a last name is representative of who you belong to or where you came from, right?
Mhm.
Like if you're single, it's just where you came from, maybe. But, we've all, not everybody, but if you've ever been a woman with divorced and had to change your name, just
it's a
like if you're changing,
process.
yeah, just like if you're changing your first name, it doesn't matter. So, yeah, yes, there's so much in a name
Well, changing your name when you get married is a big thing too. I mean, your whole
and it's
identity,
ownership.
you haven't just shifted to being a spouse, you've shifted what people call you. Exactly. It's your identity is now not just who you've been, but it's now you're something else, you're part of something else. Um yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
changing it back is amazing power. I think
Yeah.
when I went back to my maiden name, I really felt, okay, I'm back again. You
Yeah.
know, not that I have anything against the name that I had while I was married or my ex-husband or anything like that, but just
It
coming
doesn't mean
back
that.
into being myself. And I imagine, Song, when you found your name, was there a feeling of that, of like, okay, now I'm home, now I'm here? Did you have that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm.
And every time somebody says my name, your name, every time somebody says your name, there's a resonation that goes with it. It resonates. You know that there is something, there's energy in it, and it's empowering.
Mhm.
My name is everything. Like
That's what I
everything
was gonna say.
has a
So
song.
okay.
I love that.
That's what I was gonna say. That's where I was going next is, so what does song represent to you?
It's everything. And
Yeah.
it reminds me that I'm not just me. I am the snow on the ground, the train in the background, that I'm you and you and you. And so you have to, or I learned to see everything as a mirror reflection. So if somebody's going through a hard time, I'm looking at myself going, okay, what part of me is that?
Mhm.
Mhm.
So it's a really deep thought process.
You know, that kind of reminds me of the Ho'oponopono prayer, where you're saying the prayer and you're saying it to yourself and you're using it to heal yourself and then eventually to heal everybody. Same kind of thing, I think. That was, yeah. Yeah,
What
that
you
Mhm.
reminds me
think
of
is what
that.
you give off, which is returned.
Mhm.
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 If only so many people or more people would realize the power of our words. And a name
Words.
is a word
Yes. Mm-hmm.
with
Yep.
a different identity behind it. So, yeah. Oh my gosh.
Words have so
Ladies,
many vibrations too, a-
Yes.
and musical tones, really.
yeah.
Like you could play music to specific tones that are names.
Mhm.
Oh, Bashar talks a little bit about one of the movements, and I'm sorry, I can't remember off the top of my head, but one of the movements, I think it might be Mozart, I'm not sure, it might be Bach,
Mhm.
just
Mozart.
that small little bit of the beginning of one of the movements is like this very healing, very enlightening bit of music. You know what I'm saying, right,
It's
Ronnie? Do
either
you remember that?
7th.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. It's either
Yeah.
the 7th or ninth symphony. I
Maybe
forget.
we can get a link up or
Just sing it.
something on this. I don't know it yet.
Just sing it. Just sing it.
Keep talking and I'll Google real quick.
Yeah,
Well, is
Google it.
is it
I
the
don't know what it
one
sounds like. I can't
oh
remember off the top of my head, but, because 'cause I've put it on, like, when I've gone into meditation, but I'll just keep the whole thing playing. Um,
well, is it the
you
one that is
know,
do 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 do
It's close to that, yes.
do?
I think that's part of it, yeah. Yeah, but I mean, what you're saying, the power of music, the power of sound, the power of name, all those things tie us into who we are and help us connect. And, I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking as we're talking, the name that you're given as a baby is a reflection of the people who give you that name. When your parents are naming you, they're naming you because they like that name. There may be, I mean, I know that I'm speaking strictly like American culture or whatever you want to say. I know that in other cultures names are given at times and they're given very sacredly, or you have I know people who have the name that they have and then they have their sacred name that maybe doesn't get said out loud, or is maybe used in other ways. So
I have one of
so
those too.
much.
Well, and
Mhm.
when
Yeah,
I don't
I've gone
when
through ceremony.
I love that. I love that.
oh, have you?
Hmm.
How cool. I was, when I was coming into years ago when I was getting into the spiritual stuff and I was recognizing the power of words that go along with names. You know what I flashed back on?
No.
I did not have I don't know why I do that. I've got to change. Thank you, song. Thank you. I used to flash back on some of the nicknames I had as a kid growing up.
Ah,
And I think about that sometimes, and sometimes we don't realize what that can do to our psyche as a kid if it's not, you know, a beneficial or a positive, nickname. All right,
Mhm.
so it is definitely the Seventh Symphony. All right, and I'm gonna see, and it is by Mozart. Can you hear that?
It's tinny.
No.
No.
I was wondering if you guys would be able to hear that. But it is definitely Beethoven. I think I said Mozart. I apologize. It's Beethoven's Seventh Symphony.
Beethoven.
I am so sorry. I said
Yes.
Mozart like 3 times. It is Beethoven's Seventh Symphony, second movement.
Are you
Yes.
able to unplug your headset and then play it that way?
Yeah.
Right now, it looks like her microphone is just floating.
I know, that's funny. It's there and not there. Look at
Yeah.
It's magical like me.
it.
Can you hear it?
No.
Well, it's turned all the way up. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, maybe
But
can we?
apparently it's at
Yeah.
432 hertz. So that
Yes.
could be why it resonates. I'm going to stop with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm going to put this back in because I know I echo in the
But yeah, it's at 432. So anybody who doesn't know about that, Bashar has informed us and enlightened us to the fact that Beethoven's Seventh Symphony is very beneficial for our
Second movement.
brains.
Yep.
Second movement. Yeah, thank you. Very beneficial for our brains.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, where were we? So yes, and how all of that, Deanna and I were kind of talking about that with our last when we did her introduction on our last podcast, right? How imperative words are. My goodness, we're gonna have
Mhm.
to do a whole podcast about that.
There's a lot. I've
Gonna
been
be
studying it
hours.
for quite some time.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
should
There's
stop because it's so detailed. There's so much information.
yeah.
Oh,
There
The
is, and
power and
that's
the intent. Yep.
how long
well,
are we
and that's
supposed to
why
go for?
affirmations are so important. Oh, honey, we go as long as we go. Don't make me
Okay. Oh, okay.
don't let the sun set and Rhoni grab a glass of wine because then we'll really be here all night.
We'll just go. Yep.
All
Beyond
right.
beyond anybody has time for.
But you're right
Uh,
about affirmations. They're huge, and it's the common way of thinking is it's the way that you say them and the words that you use are where the intent is. So the intent is channeled in the right way. So like instead of saying I don't, say I do, say all those kind of putting the positive spins on everything really changes things. And when you're saying your intentions or you're doing, like I call it, doing my gratitudes, where I give thanks every morning for everything, and you feel it, you really feel it as you're saying it. You can resonate with the words that you're saying in a positive way, and I can only imagine that if you're speaking in a negative way, you're only going to reinforce the negativity into yourself. So the power of words is immense. And yes, we should do a whole show with you telling us all about it, because that would be very interesting.
yeah, let's do it. Let's do that. I was thinking one of my favorite quotes that has always stuck with me for years and years is whether you think you can or you can't, either way you're right.
Yeah,
Yep.
agreed.
Love that.
So once you actually understand that, and you really in your core understand that, because we can all sit here and go, oh, yeah, I get that. Oh, yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
understand. But are you changing your words to match what you're walking?
Mm-hmm.
And when you really start doing that, you really fully grasp everything that we're talking about. So I would say to people who are listening out there, if you don't understand, and we kind of lost you in the sauce with this conversation,
It's good sauce.
understand it is good sauce. It's dang good sauce.
Now
Whew.
I'm thinking of that Saturday Night Live sweaty balls. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Good image. Look at that.
You have no idea how much that skit cracks me up. Oh my
I
gosh.
know.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Yes. So yeah, understand the power of whether you think you can or whether you think you cannot. Either way, you're right. And take that to your core would be some really great starting advice. All right, song. So now we understand where your name came from. And
Mm-hmm.
you are calling in from
And
Canada.
yeah, I am in Alberta. Yes.
All righty. And
which
tell us,
is located in Canada. And I'm also out in a little small town. Actually, I don't live in the small town. I live near a hamlet called Radway.
very cool.
We have a bunch of property that the settlers from over 100 years ago came through on. I have not looked for any artifacts from the natives that used to be on this area, but I feel strongly that they are here. I just
Hmm.
haven't gone to look for them because sometimes when I pick up things, I see the history of the item. So it's intense
I
to
imagine if you're
get
not
that,
expecting it.
yeah, to get that flood of imagery, especially if somebody I've had images where somebody gets their throat slit. I've also had a conversation with a lady who was just skinning some animals. She was just like, I can't remember what it's called. It's not called skinning, but they use a stone and they
Hmm.
just shred the fat off of the back of a hide. And it's always interesting having those conversations because they just pop up and I'm looking at them. They're not actually there because they're transparent. When I see them, they look like they are a reflection in a window. You know, when it's dark
Hmm.
outside and then you see
Hmm.
a reflection in the window, that's how they appear to me. They're transparent. And
That's
yet
a
I
really
can,
great
I
description.
I was
Yeah.
thank you. I was about to say the same thing, Deanna. Yes, that is a brilliant explanation.
thanks. I've been using that for many years.
Because I've always described it as kind of like a hologram,
Yeah, sure.
that's, it's kind of transparent, but I've never thought about the reflection.
Reflection in
That's
the
really
window.
cool. Yeah. So what exactly is it that you do?
Hmm. I really haven't defined it. I don't think I have a definitive word for what I do, but I can tell
Well,
you
then
some
tell
of the
us all the
things that I've
things.
studied over the years.
Yeah.
All right, let's start with
How
why
about
I
let's go.
started studying. I was actually in a car crash in 1994. I've had over 200 stitches right here on my face, on my left
Mm.
side of my face, all the way back into my ear. You can't see it now because, well, the light is shining quite brightly and it's just reflecting. But having over 200 stitches right here really puts things in perspective. You have to go through your whole self-esteem, whether you have one or not, it's now gone. You have to build that up again. And I, at the time, chose to not use drugs, not use anything except food. So I wanted to heal myself through food. So I did a huge dive on how to heal with food.
What? That's a thing.
What do you mean that's a thing? Of course it's a thing. The first book I bought was called Super Healing Foods. And I was so happy that almost all the things that were in the book, I was already eating. I was like, what? I intuitively knew that avocado was good for me, celery was good for me, all those things. And now I grow celery, not avocado. I can't grow avocado here, it's too cold. But I might try once we get a greenhouse.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be good.
So going through this car crash experience and having all those stitches in your face and learning how to heal through nutrition.
Hmm. That was a nice dive over probably the course of 10 years, learning all of that. But shortly after my crash, let's say October, so the crash was in August. Moving up to October, I had an even more profound experience. I wasn't sure how to explain it at first, but I'll just say more profound experience where I started hearing things. I was in a house, different house from the story previously. I was in a house and I was downstairs. Everything was peaceful. All of a sudden, I could hear a choir singing in the upstairs of this house. And again, I'm alone in this house. I know I'm alone in this house because only two of us live in the house, and the boyfriend at the time, he was gone. So I'm sitting there going, why am I hearing a choir? I don't know why I'm hearing a choir. There's no possible way that this choir could be upstairs to begin with. Yes, Roni?
I was gonna say, did the sky part too?
No.
Oh,
No.
okay.
The lights were dim in the house, so, like, there was really no reason, and for the next week, I didn't know why, I could hear that choir 2 more times.
Wow.
The reason why I heard the choir was because it was the same choir that was going to be singing at the funeral that I was about to attend, that I didn't know I was about to attend. It was my boyfriend at the time. He had, well, he had a dad, duh.
Mm.
That's not what I meant to say. His dad came over and he actually killed himself on the same property. And I was the one that found him,
Oh,
shot in the head just outside the window. So,
oh, baby, I'm so sorry.
yeah, well, thank you. It took a long time to get over that. Takes a long time.
That's not
It's
good.
really, and so now when people come up to me and they're like, "Oh, I'm so sad about somebody dying and stuff like that," I'm like, I know.
Mhm.
Like, I'm not kidding. I actually know what you're going through. And they're like, "What?" And then I tell them the story about it, about finding him. But it was because of his death that I was able to hear the choir singing. Because of his death and probably the trauma from the car crash a couple of months earlier, that I was willing to see beyond what is presented in front of us. So that day that I found him, I went for a walk down the road and a butterfly flew out from clearing in the trees and it actually swirled, like it flew around my head as I was walking. I didn't stop. And I just imagined that I was talking with this guy's spirit. I'm like, whatever. I'm just going to talk with you because he's not here anymore and I'm mad at him because he's gone. And he did that while I was sleeping. It was, yeah, it was traumatic. But anyway, I'm talking to this
Yeah.
butterfly as if it's him. And then I say, if this is really you, do a figure eight in front of me. Guess what? The butterfly did
It's
a figure eight.
Mhm.
And then it landed on my shoulder.
Oh boy.
I did not stop walking. I just looked down and I went, okay, thank you. Yeah. It's
That's
emotional for me right now too. So,
yeah, that's a good story, and I've got my feels, and yeah,
mhm.
I cry a lot. I'm still pretty cool in my head.
So I thanked the butterfly and then it opened its wings and closed its wings as if to say, okay, goodbye, thank you, you're welcome, or whatever. I don't remember now. Probably just goodbye. And then it flew up and did a figure eight in front of me and then flew off.
Oh, to remind you, another figure eight, just to remind you.
wow.
Hmm.
Well, that's
Yeah, it
also
was
like the
really
sign of
great.
eternity. Tip it
Well, it's
sideways.
infinity.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you've got the
yeah.
infinity.
Well,
I'm Métis. That is the Métis symbol as well.
the
The
what
what
symbol?
symbol?
A word.
Yeah.
Métis, my
And what is
native
that?
background.
Oh, okay.
What background?
Mhm. Native.
Oh,
Native.
well,
Métis means
yes.
mixed blood, just Cree and French.
Oh, okay.
I did not know
I did not
that.
know. I was about to say that.
Deanna.
It's like I'm talking to one person. This is great.
Yeah.
Now you know why I asked her. Yes, yes, yes. This is how we got
Oh.
here.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
Wow.
after the butterfly, after that crash, I was still looking into healing myself. And now I have this even more open capability of hearing things and then it
Mhm.
progressed to seeing spirits even more. And then somebody at one point told me that, yeah, they just show up on the sides, like out of the corner of your eye. And I don't remember who. They just said, well, tell them to stop showing up on the sides. Tell them to show up in front of you so you can talk to them. Oh,
Hmm.
Mhm.
oh,
Oh, I can do that?
yeah.
Yeah.
So I did. And so they did.
Yeah.
They would show up in front of me, and then I was able to talk with them. And it was really outstanding. I really liked it. And I'm saying it in past tense because I don't do it as often now. It's not something that I choose to do. It'll happen when it needs to happen. I don't force it. I don't know. I just don't feel like forcing it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, because I was broken from a car crash and learning how to heal with food and just progressing with intuition and learning how to deal with things, I've always felt that there is a way that we can heal instantly. Why can't I heal instantly? It was one of the biggest questions that I had. I feel like we can do it, but how do I learn to do it?
Hmm.
So I learned applied kinesiology. So I can adjust your bones, your muscles, your internal organs, and the nervous systems that run throughout your body. Chiropractors study applied kinesiology so that they can help their clients better.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have to go to school to be a chiropractor. I just took the applied kinesiology. So that was one aspect of it. So I started helping people learn or helping them heal that way. And then I learned theta healing. Actually, before theta healing, I would dabble in the body code and the emotion code with Bradley Nelson. And then there was another guy named Robert he taught some tapping, but he taught a faster way of tapping. So instead of using 15 points on your body to do tapping,
Mm-hmm.
he would just show you, oh, you know what, you can skip this if you go right to the heart of the matter and make people get really emotional really quickly and then transform it from there, which was really great because it was leading up to more instantaneous healing,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is possible. I still think is possible. And I've witnessed some, which is so fantastic. So then I moved into theta healing with Vienna Steibel, which Rhoni is now looking into, studying that. hmm It's
Thank you, Song.
remarkable. You're welcome.
It's on a pause. We're on a pause. We read a few pages the other day, and my goal is just to read a couple of pages right now, but I have a lot going on, so but we'll get back. Go ahead.
hmm So when you pause in a book, it just means that you're not ready for the next lesson. So if you force yourself to read one paragraph, then you'll find what the lesson is that you have yet to get to. And then you'll find that things will shift within your waking life that will help you to keep reading that book to get over to the hump of the next lesson.
I like that. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
I learned that when I read the Celestine Prophecy.
Hmm.
I put the Celestine Prophecy down at one point. Maybe it was in the 10th Insight, the
Mm-hmm.
next book, where you just can't get to that next chapter. And I'm like, why can't I get to this next chapter? And then, of course, the answer comes to me, and that was the answer. You're not ready for the next lesson. Oh, well, how can I force the next lesson?
That right
Yeah.
there is yeah.
hmm
Mhm. I know.
Find your words. Tell me.
So I read the other day a few more pages after you told me that exact same thing that you just said. And I said, oh, I remember that. I know that. I do know that. And so I took it with me when I had a day where I spent taking care of my vehicle. I went and got a good car wash, got a good oil change, tires rotated, all the things, just spent the day taking care of my vehicle. And it took me a long time to do all these things for some reason. Apparently, I was meant to spend the day doing that. But anyway, here we are. And I took that book with me. And so I kept reading throughout waiting time.
I
And the next
think,
came,
oh yeah,
which is how
good.
we got here.
Aw. I've always felt that your vehicle is a representation of you. If the vehicle is not running properly on the inside, but it looks great on the outside, you're probably well put together on the outside and the internal organs are not working well.
I
Hmm.
have always thought that a vehicle represents the driver in a lot of different ways.
Even
That's
the
why I've
shape.
always aspired. I agree. And I think that's why I've had so many vehicles all my life. I've had a
Because you keep
lot
changing.
of different
Yes.
vehicles because I do. I keep growing and evolving and becoming,
Mhm.
who I need to be for whatever time period to get me to the next, to continue evolving and growing as a what I consider to be my best self.
You know what's interesting is I just had to get all 4 tires replaced on my car, which I was putting off and putting off and putting off until some wheel weight thing came off and I'm driving along and all of a sudden the car was shaking and I thought, well,
Oh,
it's time. And
That's
I take
scary.
it in there and they tell me, it was out of alignment by 4 centimeters, which is apparently a big deal because they put 2 exclamation points next to it on the bill. And um and what you're saying now, I'm thinking because, Ronnie, we've talked about this a bunch. I have been going nonstop for months, just going and going and going and doing all kinds of things and, building up what I'm into and trying to get things done. And I had gotten to the point where I was driving to one of the things I had planned when my car started shaking. And I thought, okay. And now that you said that, I can see how that's telling me relax, take a break. You don't have to do it all at once.
You
And so I
don't have
did.
to run
I'm
yourself into the ground.
right. So I'm backing
mhm.
off of a lot of things for the next month or so and just
Hmm.
concentrating on a few. Like I'm working on the healing and stuff like that, but maybe going out and doing readings all the time is going to be on the back burner for a while I get myself back into alignment. So what you said is like really strikes home. That's a
Good.
great way to describe things. Yeah. And
I would also check your
yeah.
shoes.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
because if the soles are worn out.
Well, if your tires have an issue, the tires are what puts it on the ground. That's the connection between the ground and your vehicle. So what's the connection between you and in the ground? Your shoes, your
Where are you at?
socks.
Are you
What kind
Yeah.
grounded?
of
Where are you
socks are
at?
you wearing?
Are you running yourself? Yeah.
Or are you wearing any
Yeah.
socks?
Not usually.
That's
Uh,
good. It's too cold here for me not to
no,
wear
it's cold
socks.
here too, but I just inside. I was raised by hippie parents, so things I do. But yeah, that's a really good point. And the fact that when the car started driving bad on the way to something that I was like, "Oh, I said I would do this, but I'm really tired." And it ended up being a great night, and there's always something poignant comes out of those things. But yeah, I can really see how the car being out of alignment could really be a representation of me and my life and my energy being out of alignment and really needing to take a step back and give myself a break. I was in something all day yesterday and I'll tell you it wore me out. And that's the last one I'm doing for a while because I'm like time to chill. So anyways, not trying to get off topic, but yeah, the car
No,
is
I,
a
I
good
like that it's off
allegory.
topic
Yeah, yeah, we
Yes,
because
can
it's
that's
on
what this is all
topic,
ramble. We can
about.
ramble. Yes.
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 Yes,
but
and people
and it
So
follow
makes
yeah.
along.
sense.
Yeah, it really
Hmm.
does. And now I feel like I have to clean out my car.
You know, I think I don't know if I ever told you this, Deanna, but Song and I have talked about it. I know. I used to have a Jeep Wrangler.
Mm,
Okay. And let me tell you something. I had a badass Jeep. Okay. She was lifted. She had a 4-inch lift with she was on 35 tires, with all the things. And
Not 35 in total.
she only had 4 tires, right?
Yeah.
yes, size is 35, if anybody knows anything about it. She had big ass tires and a good lift, and I had built that baby up, man. Ladies, I put a lot of money into that vehicle.
Mhm.
But I did a lot to her. And let me tell you something that I found so interesting. When I got rid of her, I did not realize how much identity I had wrapped up in that vehicle.
Mm.
I was a Jeeper. I did these things with the Jeep stuff. And it is literally, you know, it definitely, if you become a Jeeper and you get into all the Jeep clubs and all the Jeep stuff, it is like a cult. It really
Hmm.
is. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. It's a whole lot of fun. And we did a lot of give back and community service, which I really appreciate. Like we go out and pick up trash. You know, we
Oh,
we
wow.
went to the beach numerous times, because 4x4 on the beach, go pick up beach. Anyway, we did all
Wow.
kinds of community service and all kinds of good stuff. Being a Jeeper, right? But my goodness, when I got rid of that vehicle, I felt like a part of me went with her.
I can see that. I mean, look at all that you invested. There's a huge
Oh,
emotional
yeah.
investment in there.
Well, and I had never really been an off-roader, and so I did all the things I did because I wanted to go off-roading. And then I got into off-roading, right? And that was freaking awesome and cool. And so here I am rock crawling everywhere, and I just, and it's just we did some really cool things together. And that was a different type of vehicle that just it's a different lifestyle. And it was really cool. But anyway, my point is my identity got wrapped up into that.
Mhm.
I think that's true with a lot of vehicles.
And that was well, I've always named my vehicles, and my vehicles have always had a persona. Like, that is not a new thing for me. Every vehicle, I drive it, I feel it out, I feel the name. I've always had this even before I got into all of what we do. But this one, this one took me for a ride instead of me taking it for a drive. It took
So that
me
was
for a
what you
ride.
needed. You needed that in your in that time of life
It was
to really get
fun.
out there and push those edges a little farther.
It was really
And
fun.
have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
And
was.
have
Oh my
fun.
gosh, I had her, and she was just a. I had her for a while, and she was just so great. Anyway, all right, song. So yes, we understand the vehicles, and yes, okay, they can
We don't
become
have
a
to go
part of
back on
us.
track. We don't have to get back on track.
We don't
There's
have
no
to have a
need.
track.
Yeah.
Although it's funny that you say that and you have a train in your background.
And I love that
Ah,
train. I do. I love that picture. By the
thank
way,
you.
I know you took that picture yourself.
I did, yes. I
Yes.
take a
So
lot of
amongst
photos.
all the things
Wow.
that Song does, another one is photographer. She
Wow.
is a phenom doc. Oh, Deanna, you should see some of her photographs.
Aw, thanks.
And she is a phenom.com photographer. However, and I'm sure other photographers have this. One of the things that Song can do is she can take all these photos, and then of
Oh,
course, because she took them, she knows them in her head. And then if she is doing working with you in what she does in her work, she will post a picture. Inspiration, spirit will come through, and inspiration will tell her what picture to put up without she even knowing you. And then when the session's all finished, or you're done with all your spending time with Song, um, the picture comes to fruition, and you understand why.
why
That's
that photo
because
was
she doesn't
chosen.
know either. She just chooses, right? I mean, come on,
Yeah.
like you wouldn't know why you picked that or pick something, Deanna. You're like, oh, this is just telling me to pick this, and here I am giving it to you.
Hmm.
And
Mhm.
then you hear a story. Oh,
And it
that's
all ties in. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I
Yep.
love that.
It's a really cool thing that she has. That's a really cool
Yeah.
gift.
I have about 50,000 photos that I choose from too.
Wow, that is a lot. That is
That's a
I
lot.
thought, I have 2,000 on my phone. I think 50,000 is huge.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I just intuitively know which one goes for which session by just looking, just scrolling through all of them and keeping that person in mind and all of the things that they filled out on their form, which I haven't
Oh,
gotten to yet. So from Theta Healing, I learned to go to the creator of all that is. And at this point in time is when I started photographing things more seriously, bought myself a more expensive camera, went out at all hours of the evening because my specialty is the night sky. So I gather thousands of photos at this point in time. And then over the course of the next 10 years, from Theta Healing, I've I intuitively knew that there was something more that I needed. I knew that theta healing wasn't enough. There's an aspect of it that is missing. And so I took Beyond Quantum Healing, and that still wasn't it. It gave me more experience in learning how to hypnotize people, whereas theta healing doesn't have a hypnotic state. So I felt the need to get people into that theta brainwave state through hypnosis. And while waiting for soul centered healing to come online as an online course instead of an individual course with the teacher herself. I'm not sure if we should be saying her name. I don't know. if that's a thing on here yet.
I don't
Does it
know.
matter? Don't know
Live your
yet.
You
life,
got me.
whatever works for you.
Oh,
I don't tell people how to live their life. You can choose what you do or don't say.
well, I was thinking of the algorithms and if there's some ramification for saying people's names and stuff like that.
We
Well,
can
then
just say
let's
your
not worry about
teacher
it.
then and not,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right then.
So one of the quantum healing, quantum hypnotherapy techniques.
Mm-hmm. I
Hmm.
I learned that and I felt strongly that that was what I needed in order to get people over the relapses, really. Because everybody, they can heal, but they always have this fear that they're going to just go right back to where they were before. So
Hmm.
combining theta healing, going to the creator of all that is, downloading what it feels like to move forward in life without fear, and then removing all of the negative things that are in the person's body so that they don't have to resort back to it just seems like a really good package for everybody to do. And then combining a photo, an actual image for them to look at while they're reviewing their session, because that's part of the healing too, is you listen to the session over again. Because I don't add extra images afterwards, I don't add words and things like that. I don't like to fancy it up like that because it's for that person and they need to see those images because I've already infused it while out taking the photo. I've already infused all the love and the gratitude that you feel when you're
Yeah.
looking at this magnificent sky dancing or a sunset setting or a sunrise rising. I've already put that emotion in the images. And science has already proven that you can infuse photos. And one time when I was sitting in a theater style area, they started showing images of Native people and how they were living back then. And suddenly there was this one photo where I started crying. And then I saw everything that happened to that person in that lifetime when that photo was being taken. And I was just like, oh my gosh, photos carry emotions. So it was very profound. So I knew
Wow.
that I needed to infuse really good emotions into photos. And I still do that.
That's
It just
beautiful.
says 8,000 words.
Can I circle to
Mm.
what would you say theta healing is? Because I'm not
Ooh,
familiar with that.
good
So when you
question.
say theta healing, I know it's probably got something to do with maybe a brain state or a state of awareness, maybe.
So theta healing was created by another teacher. Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
She coined it because there is a process that you need to go through, and it's not a slow process. It is fast. She takes you through a fast visualization going up, up, up to the creator of all that is. And she does it fast so that you don't have time to think of anything else. And so you get to this area where you become all that is, ever was, ever will be. And in that moment, you can change and alter anything.
Hmm.
Let's go back and let's talk about what the theta brainwave state is, though.
Mm. You go ahead.
Do we understand? Do you understand the beta, alpha, theta, delta?
But why don't we explain it for anyone
Okay.
who's listening that may not?
Okay. Good idea. Thank you. So help me out, ladies. But beta, alpha, theta, delta. So beta is where you and I, all three of us, are talking right now. Anybody who is listening to this, if you are watching and listening and you are doing active listening, you are engaging your beta mind. Now, if you are driving and listening to us talk, you've probably kind of relaxed in and you're just driving. That's your alpha mind. Your alpha mind actually has like a good little section in it, right? So beta is kind of a little bit thinner, it's right about here. And then alpha is kind of a larger area. And these are our brain waves. And alpha is actually where we meditate. But we can get into all of this little first part of alpha right in here so easily just by driving, just by washing the dishes, just by watching the bees or the butterflies in the garden. And then the longer that you do that, that you are less engaged, the deeper you go in those alpha states, which is where that deep meditation is, like monks and stuff like that. They go so deep in that alpha that they can already go to theta. Theta is very, very thin. It's very, very thin, about right there, really thin. And what that is once you hit from alpha to theta, then you drop from theta into sleep, which is delta. Delta is your sleep state. And then, of course, delta is pretty long because we understand how, you sleep lighter, you sleep deeper, all those type of things. But that's all delta. So what this does, what hypnotherapy, the quantum hypnotherapy that we do, as well as what theta healing does, is it takes you into that tiny little layer right there. And theta is that state right before you fall asleep. And when you fall asleep and you have like the little air coming out of your muscles and you kind of, jolt or, twitch or something like that, as your body's fully relaxing, well, that's where we work. So the trick is keeping you awake.
Okay. Mhm.
Or like when you're meditating, the trick is like monks, because they're so good at it. The trick is staying here. Like if you're coming down, you want to stay here. But if we're hypnotizing you, the trick is to keep you here before you fall off into delta. So it's either way you look at it, staying in theta is a balancing act, and it is and that's where all the magic happens. All the magic that why do you think doctors put you to sleep other than the pain? So that they can do their job,
Mhm.
okay? And let the magic happen. And where you are is in theta. You are not in delta when they knock you out with anesthesia. If they give you too much, you can go all the way down to delta. But that's why people have these amazing prolific things sometimes that happen after surgery. And they say they've seen things because they're in that beautiful place that we work in. And it
Haven't
is
some surgeries been done without the use of drugs in the theta?
absolutely,
Yeah.
oh, people can look that up, but and all they do is they're talking you through it, getting you into theta. They are
Hmm.
telling you to get into theta, however they're telling you or guiding you to get there, and then boom shakalaka, that's always, always, always where all the magic happens.
So is being hypnotized maintaining that theta state between one level and sleep? So you're
Mhm.
like walking the edge. So when
Yes.
people go to sleep sometimes, or I know what happens to me is right before I'm asleep, when I'm still somewhat conscious that I'm not asleep, that's when things can happen sometimes, like
That is the
insights
most
or waking
suggestible time.
dreams. Okay. Okay. And
It's
so
at
you
that
use
moment.
that? Mhm.
Lucid
It,
dreaming.
if
Yes.
I, yeah.
Lucid dreaming is high theta, low alpha. It's the
I think you froze.
Oh, she did freeze.
Oh, she froze.
high, because remember, theta is
There.
very froze.
She had no idea.
Now you're back.
Okay, yeah, it just told me my internet's connection is unstable. Huh, that's interesting. But anyway, remember theta is so thin right here that when you what you're talking about is working the alpha to theta instead of the
Mhm.
data or the theta to delta. Hmm.
So when you do theta healing, you're having the person enter into that stage. And then is that when are you giving suggestions? Is that how it works? Like is it like with hypnotism? Same
Yes.
thing or?
They're not the same suggestions.
Mhm.
There is something that we say that I don't know. I want to say it, but I don't want to say the whole thing. I'd rather you
Mhm.
just go over to any of the videos and you could probably watch it there. But
Mhm.
you make the suggestion at this point in time because like when you're almost asleep, that is the most suggestible time. That is when it will sink deep into your subconscious.
Hmm.
So if you find that you're just about to sleep and you've got your eyes closed and you're like, "Yes, I'm going to go to sleep right now." That's the moment where you tell yourself anything that you want to change in your life. I don't eat sugar anymore. And you could just keep saying that. I don't eat sugar anymore. I don't eat sugar. And then you fall asleep. And then you'll notice that you stop
Go ahead.
eating sugar Go ahead.
I was going to say, and remember a long time ago, we used to hear people say, leave it at your pillow. Did you ever hear that saying?
I've
Leave it
heard
at your
sleep
No.
pillow
on it, but
or
yeah.
sleep on it. Yeah, same thing. That's where those things come from. Sleep on it,
Hmm.
leave it at your pillow.
Hmm.
Well, a little, is it the same as subliminal messaging then? In terms of you're kind of doing it to yourself if you're doing that as you're going to sleep, you're
I think
putting that
so.
message into your brain.
Hmm.
Well, if here's the thing, subliminal messaging happens at a mid alpha level, a mid to higher alpha level is where
Okay.
I'm glad you
subliminal
know this.
message usually hit, right? I am full of all this kind of information.
Good. It's
Um,
good.
Mm-hmm.
yes, thank you.
You thought you
Thank
were
you.
never going to use it.
Thank you.
Keep
Well,
going.
look, here we are. I'm using it
Using
now.
it now.
Yeah.
Who knew? So subliminal messaging is going to hit you in about, like, remember I said alpha is a big, big, it's got a lot of room in here. There's a lot of room in alpha. Okay. Subliminal messages is going to hit about half to up towards beta. Okay.
Okay.
When you are doing your own, exactly what you're talking about, like think of if you ever listen to Louise Hay or
Oh, yeah. I
oh
did studying
gosh,
on with her stuff as well.
God, I love her.
Yeah.
But anybody, Bob Proctor, Neville Goddard, um,
Just name dropping.
all these
Mm-hmm.
people, right, who have these tapes. Remember audio tapes that we
Hmm.
used to do all back in the day. So if you're doing that, as you're listening to that, you are reprogramming. You're doing it two ways because you're hitting in that mid alpha level, and so that's the subliminal hitting, right? If you
Mm-hmm.
listen to it right before you go to sleep, then you're hitting that deep alpha going towards theta, which is the magic area. So, yes, you're going to have massive shifts right in that time. And the reason it's called reprogramming is because that's exactly what you're doing. You're
Hmm.
reprogramming your mind to now think this way, which
But
is
Yeah.
way
so
back
cool.
then, they used to have lots of affirmations. You had to say it over and over and over again. Well, using this theta way, like the theta healing by Diana Stiebel, she teaches you to do it instantly,
Hmm.
Quick, quick, quick.
which
Okay.
is what I was looking for. Remember, I'm always looking for the instant healing, the instant miracles, the things that I know we can do this stuff. I just forgot how to do it. That's all. So I'm looking for
Very
it.
interesting. I do remember the tapes that you could buy probably off the television or something that you put on and you sleep. You put them
Hmm.
on when you're sleeping and you're supposed to be like self-hypnosis, I think is actually what they were calling it.
Hmm.
And you would do things. I know that when I was in college, I would play back my lectures that I listened to sometimes while I was sleeping. If I was worried about passing a test or not, I would just turn it on and have it play as I fell asleep. So I think I don't,
Learning by osmosis.
Osmosis.
well, no, that was when I slept with the book under my pillow,
Same thing.
which I
Well,
also did.
you do both. You put the book under your pillow and you have the recording going at the same time.
Yes,
Guaranteed A.
yes. And then the notes
Guaranteed.
on your forehead. It all worked.
Yeah. I
I made it through college. What can I say?
I used to write on my well, I still write on my mirrors. But yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, and we've
Okay.
come to learn that with all of this, the more you do it, the the more you get the hang of it, because the more you do it, the quicker you can get to those different brainwave states and the faster you start doing whatever you're
Changing
trying to do.
things, altering things,
Yeah. Yeah,
altering
So,
your thoughts.
so like if somebody, oh, I said like I was a teenager. If somebody gets hypnotized really quickly, does that mean that they're able to move into those states faster? Or is that
not
different?
sometimes, but not necessarily.
Okay.
A lot of times people go through those states and they don't even realize you go through them. I mean, we're always doing it all day, every day, except for
Mm-hmm.
Delta, of course, sleep, right? Um, but if you've ever been sitting in a meeting bored out of your gourd and like your eyes have started glazing over and you're just, oh, what? Yeah, you
Yeah.
probably hit a theta state and felt nothing, or maybe you had an epiphany at that moment and then you woke up going,
Or you start lucid dreaming. Those are the
mm-hmm.
states where I actually, it's like I thought for a while I was hallucinating because I would be in that state in classes. This is going way back to high school. And I would see these cartoon things, and I'd just be like an active observer, well, not even active, a passive observer. And I'd just be watching all this weird stuff. And then at some point, it would all go away, and I'd wake up and be like, well, now that was weird, you know? And I think that might be this, like what you're saying, because you're in that state where it's very suggestible. I don't know what the teacher was talking about, but whatever it was may have filtered in somehow and just made me think that one time I was in a lecture at college and for whatever reason I came to myself going like this towards the head of the person sitting in front of me because I was convinced there was a cat on her head and I thought, "Oh my god." And I pulled back just in time. I was like, I would have grabbed this woman's head. And I did go buy coffee at that point, but I think that's
Yeah,
that's kind of
normal
the
reaction.
same thing. Yeah. And
Yeah.
maybe like the sleepwalking and everything is when you're kind of floating in that kind of that space between, right?
Um, I don't know. I've never really Song, have you studied sleepwalking? I
No.
don't. I'm not going to speak on that because I honestly am unsure. So I don't want to speak
Well,
on that.
I know it's a trick in the REM
But it
cycle
has to,
somewhere, but
yeah.
yeah. I know like
Um,
my daughter used to sleepwalk and that was when she would come in and just say the craziest things like there's aliens in the living room or, there's
And now
this
we
and
know that's
that.
not crazy.
Well, no, I was like, there probably are.
mhm.
And your point. But she was completely not conscious. I mean, she was conscious on that level, but she was not conscious to the level that we're at. And I mean, it was wild. It was
Yeah.
interesting, but
Should have interviewed her.
So,
if it wasn't
yeah.
like 3 o'clock in the morning when she was doing it, I might have had the wherewithal to ask her more questions.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's always fascinated me is those different stages. Because I remember learning about that in school and thinking, it's really interesting because you can be like awake, tired, and asleep, and you can look at it that way. But when you get that other extra little layer in there that's between the wake and sleep, like you're saying, the theta layer, that always fascinated me. I mean, oh my God, I was probably 10 years old when I used to go into my sister's room at night and try to give her messages so that she would wake up and say things. And sometimes it worked. And I was always like, whoa, that was really cool because I got her
Yeah.
at the right place.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's the thing is that it really is the magical place. Another thing I wanted to add is what a lot of people don't know that is also really important to know about this theta state being only the it's like an inch. It's only like an inch, like alpha's over here. You got like 6 inches to work with. Like you got plenty
Mhm.
of room. The biggest
I don't know what I missed.
oh, because everything between Song and I, we sounds dirty.
Oh my
Come on, that totally sounded sexual. You know it did. We're gonna laugh about that.
God. Our rating just went to PG-13.
Yeah, soon. Yeah, 17 preferred. Uh, but I learned when I was learning about all this, and how the brain waves affect all the things that we're doing and yada yada yada. My biggest aha, and we're all older, and we, our kids are grown or whatever. From 0 to 7, 0 to age 7, all children only live in theta.
The most.
So you are looking at a 2-year old asking them a cognizant beta question. And that's the reason they can't answer you, is because they are only sponges living in that little theta area.
Hmm.
And if only more people knew that, but we're not given this information, right? Like, and theta we didn't even understand. That's how theta got missed so much, is because it's so thin, right? It's just this tiny little space right there. And so that's why it got missed for years and years and years, is because it's like, oh, from here to sleep, until when they were
Right.
doing surgeries, and then they realized, oh, there's that twilight area right there. So, but yeah, think about that. Think about
Hmm.
kids. That
Well,
was
I
my
mean, yeah.
big like, wow.
And the pretend
They're
and the games and the imaginary friends and everything, I'm sure
it's
are
only in
floating
theta.
in that space. Interesting. Very interesting.
They only live in theta. 5 to 7 is when they start coming out of it. They start moving up the alpha, and they can go from theta to halfway or a little bit above, from 5 to 7, those last 2 years. That's why there's, oh gosh, I'm going to butcher this saying. Anybody religious, help me out here. There's a religious thing that says, or give me the boy till he's 7 and I'll show you the man.
Hmm.
Something to that effect. Don't quote me
Good thing I
precisely
don't
on
know
that.
it.
Yeah, I got no
But
clue, but it
it's
sounded good.
something, yeah, it's very religious, and that's what it's about, is show me give me the boy till age, or give me the boy till 7 and I'll show you the man. Because
Hmm.
who you are by 7, unless you do the deep freaking work on your brain, it's hard to shift. It's hard to change.
Hmm.
Hmm. Interesting. I mean, there's got to be an element of like environment that can, I mean, things happen to somebody and that can shift things. So it's not
Of
just doing work to change,
course.
but also things that happen
Of
could
course, if you
change
have
that.
traumatic
Yeah.
major things
Yeah.
like song, I don't know, how did having 200 stitches in your freaking face and head over here, how did that change you, girl? Like, and by the way, I wanted to ask you, was that an NDE? Did you have a near death experience with that
I was going
accident
to
by
ask that
chance?
too.
Hmm,
Mm.
I don't know. I don't think so.
okay. I was just curious if you did with it.
Hmm.
But yeah, so I mean, seriously, 200 stitches,
I
like
really
you were
haven't thought
talking
about
about,
that.
that's a game changer in your life.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, I
for
That's
can
a,
sure it
imagine.
was.
yeah.
It was it was a time where I did not want to be seen by anyone. And
Oh, who would?
in 1994, like how many cell phones are out? There weren't many, so I didn't have to worry about people filming or anything like that. The thing that I remember the most, that I think I regret the most, is was the first time that a kid was staring at me. I was mean to the kid. I was like, "Stop staring at me." But then once my face healed a little bit more and I worked on myself, I had to work a lot to put my personality out, and I learned how to turn and look at people without looking at them head on, face to face. I always had my head tilted so that they couldn't see that part. I wore my hair covering it. But then you just, I had to emerge from
Hmm.
it and overcome it and just keep moving forward. And so after some time, after healing for a few years, it started to look more like a burn than it did stitches. And so when a kid would look at me and stare at me and stare in wonder, I shifted my behavior to, "Do you have a question?" instead
Yeah.
of "Stop looking at me." So it was
Hmm.
Good
a
for you.
huge
That's hard.
transformation. And
Good for you.
I didn't, maybe Louise Hay helped me think of different ways to think or to
Hmm.
process things. I'll give her credit for that. I don't know if it really was her or not, but I do know that I needed, I n- really, really needed to focus on changing my thoughts from "I'm ugly, people don't like me" to, hmm
And let's be honest, and especially being a girl,
hmm
like, who's gonna, I don't know where your mind was at back at that stage. I don't know. I'm going to speak for myself. If that were me, I would probably be like, who's going to love me now? Or how would I ever get a boyfriend like this, or something I say stupid, but
Oh, I did
we
that.
all think like that,
I did that.
like, oh my gosh.
I am actually living with the man who I went to at that point, and I knew that he would be the only one that would love me like that. But we did not get together at that point. I had hurt him so much by saying, "No, we're breaking up. It's not the right time." back, like probably 2 years prior to us being together, or sorry, 2 years before the crash, I had said to him, it's not the right time. I don't want to be with you. And then I got into the crash and I was so deflated that I needed somebody to love me. And I went to him, and his mom told me that he doesn't want to be with me. So there was another blow to my
Already
ego,
fragile. Fragile.
to me as a person, as a woman, and just trying to find somebody to love me. It was
Yeah.
not easy.
Because we're not taught to just love ourselves.
No,
We have to discover and find it
No,
later.
you
that
have to
that
learn that also.
yeah, that
Right.
falls all into that whole societal
Mhm.
expectation of women, which could be I could get on a soapbox about that for a long time. But yeah, I mean, it's how we feel about ourselves reflects what we draw to ourselves. And when you go through a time of trauma and a time where you are not just emotionally changed, but physically changed, I can see how that could make you really start to doubt, I mean,
Vulnerable, really.
yeah, well, yeah. And again, because we're raised, I'm assuming we're all about the same age, and our generation was the end of the part where you have to look pretty and you comb your hair and you always have a pretty clothes on and you always wear your makeup and you get up before your husband and put your makeup on. All those things that our mothers were doing that we came in at the tail end of that, but we still had the grandmas and the aunties that were teaching us that stuff. At least my experience and that of a lot of people that I know has it was like that. And um to be brought up in that where now times are different, there's still a feeling of, oh my God, there's something that looks I look different than somebody else. And is this, what are people going to think of me? But I think we kind of got a message that our next generations didn't because we didn't pass it on to them about what makes you worthwhile as a woman, what makes you worthwhile as a person. It's not your looks, it's not what how you style your hair or what makeup you wear. None of that really matters, but we're still getting over that early learning. So to have something traumatic like that happen to you where it's in the open. A lot of us carry our wounds and our scars inside, but to carry one on the outside like that must have really been tough. And I think it was, I'm guessing at least, it must have been a lot of self healing on the inside to get to the point where this is okay. And the fact that you went to the person that you knew was going to see you for who you were, not what you looked like on the outside, is profound to have a person like that in your life. Really
And now
profound.
you're together in my head, living happily ever after.
We are living happily ever
I
I
after.
think
love
you are.
that.
I think you are. I
We
do.
didn't get there right away. We did have a 25-year separation,
Wow.
trial separation. We just tried it for 25 years.
Guess it didn't work out because you're
It
back
didn't work.
together. So
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before the crash, I was offered a modeling career.
Wow.
So that was also something else that
That's even
weighed
bigger.
heavy on me. Like I could have
Oh, yeah,
at the
because you
time,
could have made a living
Mm-hmm.
with your looks, and now that
hey,
is gone.
right?
No, that's what
That's
that's
what
what
I
I would
was
think.
thinking. That is what I was thinking.
Like, dude, I don't know how
Hmm.
old you were in 94, but I was a little younger. And from my younger perspective self, that's exactly what I would have been thinking personally. Like,
Yeah, it was very hurtful. It was a very trying time. And I really understand it now. Hindsight, right? Always
wow.
hindsight looks pretty
So,
good. I would definitely not be who I am today. I wouldn't have learned the self-healing aspect of myself. I wouldn't have learned to talk to spirits. I wouldn't have learned to listen to my intuition. That's a huge
Mm-hmm.
one.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have done that. I would have not have learned all of the foods that heal.
mm,
Yeah. I wouldn't have
Well,
learned that walking in my backyard now, I can just name off all of the plants that are back there and know what they're good for and harvest them, forage them, bring them in and use them. the way that they're meant to be used. I even listen to the plants talk. Like when I went out and I harvested my wild buffalo sage, I'm like, how do you want to be? Because so many people, they gather sage in these long bundles. And I'm
Hmm.
like, I don't, I don't think that's right for you. And I could hear it. I know this sounds really weird, but
No,
I
it
could
doesn't.
hear it talking
Not
and
in this
saying,
company.
Yeah.
it's saying, roll me in a ball, just like as if you are going to be in a ceremony. When you go to an actual ceremony, they take the sage, do this with it, and then they light it on fire. They don't have
Hmm.
it in long bundles. So that's
Mhm.
how I have it. That's how I gather it. That's what I do with it. And that's how I sell it also. I sell it as that, knowing that this is what you use before a ceremony. So go ahead and light it with a match, not a lighter.
Hmm.
Oh, with a match?
Hmm.
I've never heard that one before.
That
Thank you.
part I've heard. Yeah.
And you
Cool.
don't strike the match towards you, you strike it away from you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I never know
Well,
about the match though. Thank you. Go ahead.
I think it's those traumas that take you to breaking point and beyond, where you really are forced to rebuild yourself in different ways, emotionally, physically, whatever. And as you rebuild, again, it's like coming into your name. You're coming into who you are as this new person, like a phoenix almost, right? Where you rise out of the ashes. And I know that my personal experience with getting broken down to nothing is that I came out of that totally different and in this community and into all the things that I had always thought about but never actually put myself into, never actually realized things I could do and connections I could make, all that stuff. But you have to break sometimes and you have to break deep to bring it back up again and to really find out who you are. And sometimes that means hearing the hard things, having people stare or being told things that are hard to hear, and when you do that and you use that as your jumping point for your next step up instead of a step down, you can really come into who you are. So that's why song, it doesn't surprise me that you came out of that with all these gifts that you weren't as recognized before. And like Ronnie, I was thinking, well, maybe there was a NDE or something, but also that stuff comes because you open up to it as you rebirth your own self into who you want to be and who you are, not the person
Mhm.
that you used to be. And I think that we do that on different levels at different stages through our lives, right? I mean,
I think so
you're
too.
you grow up as a teenager and you're one person, and then you're 20 and you're somebody else, and you're 30 and you're someone else, and then something happens and you're someone else. But it's those real profound changes come with that really deep break, which is hard. But I say I was ground to dust at one point, and I put that dust back together and created who I wanted to be. And I think that that's a real it's a hard thing to go through, but it brings you to this state of I don't want to say enlightenment because I don't feel that we're quite there yet, but it brings you to this state of being who you are and who you meant to be all along, because you get all of the distractions and all of the things that used to be important suddenly are not as important once you're able to let go of that. So
Hmm.
really breaking into nothing builds you up into something bigger than you've ever been. And it's just to go through that trauma is hard, but those who do, that's how we survive it. And that's how we get to where we need to be. And lucky is the person who can get to where they need to be without having to go through that. But sometimes I think that's the only way for some of us. I know that I wouldn't be where I am now if I hadn't gone through what I did before, just like you said.
Hmm.
So pretty profound change comes with the experience like you had.
Go you song. Go you song. Go, go, go
Woo!
song. Go song.
You're so funny.
I love being people's cheerleader.
Oh,
I do. I enjoy being a cheerleader for not the stereotypical cheerleader, but my version of a cheerleader, which is always celebrating people. I love
Yes.
celebrating people. All right. So, holy cow. Wow. So, then what I'm understanding that I think I knew this, but I'm just going to recap. So, your why that you do this, because that was one of my questions. Why do you do what you do? You do it for the instant healing. You're always looking for the instant healing.
I am looking for the instant healing that others experience. I want them to know that they don't have to go through suffering. I want them to know that in an instant, your mind can be changed. You can turn your ideas and it'll move everything like that. Do you know why I said that?
I do. You ready, Deanna?
Yeah, because I'm missing on that one.
Okay. T, turning. I, ideas. M, moves. E, everything.
Time.
Time.
Turning
I like
ideas
that.
moves everything. I
Hmm.
had a conversation with the Council of 12 to say, what is it that you guys represent? Why are you coming to me now? How come you're making your presence known? 3, 4 years ago, all I heard in my head was Council of 12, Council of 12, Council of 12, Council of 12, Council of 12. I'm like, stop it already. I hear you. What the heck are you? Why are you saying Council of 12 repeatedly in my head for days on end? That's when I had my first quantum healing hypnosis session. It was shortly after that because I was searching for who are the Council of 12. Looked on
Hmm.
the internet, couldn't find any information. During the healing session, the quantum session, that's when I was able to talk with them. Found out that they are the keepers of time.
Oh,
They watch everything, everywhere, through all space, all time, all dimensions. It's really profound to have
Her blurb is spend.
access to them. Yes, go ahead.
It's her blurb. She says, "And spending time with
Mhm.
song." TIME. It's an acronym.
Yeah,
I
when you
like
sign up
that.
for a session with me.
It's
Yeah.
really cool.
Hmm. Wow. Yeah.
And it's
Lots to
all
think
thank
about.
you to the
I'm
Council
yeah,
of
I'm like
12.
The next session I had was probably the year later. And again, I had asked about the Council of 12, and that's where we were able to get some of the names of the people who sit at the table with me. And I'm still learning more about them. And I'm hearing more about them through other people now, too, which really excites me. I can sit in the space, or I have an aspect of myself that sits in the space of one of the head chairs. So it's a round, almost oval table. There's slightly a little bit longer than it is wide. And there are figures on the left, but then the ones on the right, they don't have shapes. They are energy on the right-hand side, and they all set their imaginary arms to form the table that they all sit at. And they all know who they are when they are all present at this table. Each of the figures, forms, energies that sits at the table takes care of one aspect of life on a dimension somewhere. So every single thing that happens, a bird flaps its wings, they know about that. They are the keepers of that, whether that bird should fly right now or in 2 seconds from now, or a split second from now, or in 30
wow.
minutes from now. Like they have that knowledge. So any decision that we are making here goes through one of them to determine if it's the best fit for the entirety of existence. It's a lot of information.
That is. I think about the butterfly effect with that. But what really came to mind is when you said the Council of 12 and they're the keepers of time and we're in 12-hour increments on our clocks and our watches.
Mm.
Um and that's very interesting. My father's a watchmaker, so of course it's interesting
Oh,
at baseline, but when you think of if they're the keepers of time and there's 12 of them and a clock face has 12 numbers, I don't know. That's something I'm going to be ruminating on for a while because that feels really, really deep somehow. I mean, we don't really see clocks the way they used to be back in the day, but watches and all that would just 12. And you have to wonder, well, where did the idea come to do it that way? Who decided? I mean, yes, they had sundials and all that, but who decided to break the days up in those hours? Where does that come from? Why are we on this 12 and 24 cycle, right? And you have to wonder if it comes from the council itself at some point, given the number. I mean, 12 is a sacred number, I think, in a lot of different ways. And yeah, I don't know. That was pretty I have some thinking to do now. But yeah. Yeah.
Song, I have a question. Would you
Mhm.
be willing to come back and do this again with us?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I think that'd be
because
great.
Good.
I just looked at the time and I realized how long this is getting.
Oh, we're at 2 hours
We are.
already.
So
Holy cow.
I
I
mean,
know, right?
Time flies.
Especially with good
Time.
conversation like this. Are you kidding
time,
me?
yeah.
Time. So I was gonna say, let's do a part 2.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Are we good with that?
Mhm.
Okay, well,
Let me know when.
okay, we'll talk about that later. So let's just go ahead. I do really.
Do.
I heard that.
Do you want us to excuse you for
All right,
Are
a
we
we're
now
good.
12-year-old
Yes,
12-year-old kids here?
we are. We are 12. We're
You
12.
have to laugh.
Come on, you
Absolutely.
have to laugh.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just said it. So here we are. So because I do have some other questions for you, do this. Let's end with how people can get in touch with you, please.
Oh, they can go to my website, Song That Woman Over There. I'm also known as Song That Woman Over There. Turning Ideas Moves Everything. You can find me on Google Maps. You can find me on Facebook as my proper name, Song Despens. And on there, there's another page. It's called Dancing Sky Infusions. That is where I really promote the infusion of my photos with the sessions. And YouTube. Where else? Go ahead.
We're going to post a link. We're going
Oh,
to have
yeah.
a link with this so people will be
Yes.
able to click that as well.
Yeah, really. If you just go to my website, you'll be able to go to the YouTube, the Telegram, the BitChute, and the Google.
Perfect. The
Yeah.
Google.
Excellent.
Oh,
Excellent.
the Google.
I like
The
to add the.
Google.
Yeah.
The Google.
The Google. I love it. All right. Well, ladies, let's say goodbye. Do we have any parting things for anybody out there real quick? What's the what parting words do we have for them today?
Healing. It seems like this is a healing. I mean, I'm focused on healing, but be good to yourself. That's what I'm going to say to people right now. Be good to yourself. If you are breaking, know that you'll be put back together again and trust. That's where
Love
I'm at.
that. Love that. What you got, girl?
Do we just put you on the spot?
I was just going to say bye.
That
There's my
works
parting
too.
words.
That works too.
I was gonna say
Always
in
try to
this.
find the humor in things.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
my
I
gosh.
like that.
Yes. Yes. Find the humor.
You
And I
have
was gonna
to.
say spend time with your thoughts
Time with your
Mhm.
thoughts. Hmm.
Mhm.
because, like we were talking earlier, our thoughts become things,
Yep.
right? Start
Yes.
thinking about your thoughts. How are your thoughts creating your life?
And come and see me if you want to change your thoughts really quickly.
Excellent plug.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. I love it so much. All
Ah,
right, ladies. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We're going to say goodbye and have a wonderful
Bye.
rest of your day, everyone.
bye.
Bye.